Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome back to the Where You're Planted podcast. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Deborah. I'm super stoked and excited because this is going to be the first episode that I will be recording on video. I had been playing around with the idea for the better part of last year of sort of upleveling and transforming the podcast and moving it over to accompanying each podcast episode as much as I can with video formats of podcast episodes. And I'm honestly not sure why, but I was sort of dragging my feet about it, and it's taken me a long time to finally bite the bullet to do this. But I'm excited that I'm finally doing this and finally, bringing the podcast alive by making video formats of them. So, if you're listening to this on Spotify or just like the audio version, I encourage you to also watch the video version. Put it on in the background while you do stuff around the house, whatever. For however you choose to consume your video podcast, I will have the link to the YouTube channel below. And however, honestly, if I'm being honest, I haven't done enough research to really figure out what this is supposed to look like, but by the time all of this is uploaded, I would have figured it out, and I will have all the details in the show notes. But I am super stoked for the new direction that the podcast is going to be moving, and I can't wait to just see how it uplevels and changes the show. Anyway, though, I am coming at y'all today with an exciting episode. So at the point that you'll be listening to this, we'd be wrapping up January. It'd be like the end of January, but I figured it's never too late to share some of the habits that I'm going to be committing to or I have started to commit to in the year 2026 that I think will transform my life. I feel like there's this idea floating around that in order to transform your life, you need to do like a rebrand, like an entire rebrand and overhaul of your identity to really change who you are. And I don't particularly subscribe to that idea. I feel like there may be times when, maybe it's appropriate to rebrand and completely transform your life. But more often than not, though, I feel like the more I reflect, the more I realize that dramatic change or transformation is not something that just happens like that with the snap of a finger. It's not loud. It doesn't come with like fireworks or anything like that. It really does happen quietly, and it's almost like a boring process. It's something that you have to do over and over again. You have to commit to discipline and consistency in order to make certain transformations excuse me, in order to make certain transformations occur. And when big goals rely on motivation, they tend to fail. Micro habits, though, on the other hand, succeed because instead of relying on motivation to get you to the place that you want to get you to your idealized version, you're not relying on motivation, rather you're relying on systems. And I think micro habits are important and a beneficial way to make your systems work for you because they reduce decision fatigue, they lower the barrier to consistency, and they build a lot of self-trust through follow through by keeping the promises that you make to yourself. You build trust in yourself and you build esteem and confidence, which I feel has the compounding effect of making it so that whatever new goals or things or objectives you're trying to pursue, you're able to pursue them with a lot more confidence because you know that you can do the things you say you will do, and you can keep your promises to yourself. And I think with micro habits, you can also just kind of quietly change your identity over time. Like I said, transformations, sometimes people come on social media and it looks like they've completely transformed their lives. And it may seem that way to us as passive or maybe even active viewers and consumers of this person's life, that yeah, the transformation seems to just have occurred overnight, but you don't know how much work they must have been putting in behind the scenes, how many habits they had to stick to day in and day out, how hard they relied on their systems rather than motivation to make that transformation occur. And it might have been a change that would have been happening over the course of maybe a couple years, maybe a few years, but we see the B, but we don't see all of the A's, like the sub A's and the italics I, and all the little steps in between that got them from A to B. So this year though, I'm not trying to figure out how do I become impressive, how do I just transform my life overnight or seem to have transformed my life overnight. But really what I want to commit to this year is how do I make steady progress and incorporate little habits that will eventually lead me to the version of myself that I want to be. And so that's what I wish to share in today's episode, is just some of the micro habits that I really have already begun to commit to this year, that are again little pieces of goals that I have, bigger overarching goals that I have for myself. And I'm sharing this because I figured that the mentality, the psychology behind it is not to share these habits so that you can copy them, but to share the psychology again behind it of creating systems and micro habits to get you to where you need to be, rather than saying you need to do this and this, right? I think your habits, your micro habits, should obviously be personalized to you and what you're trying to achieve, rather than following my own set of blueprints. But essentially that's the point of today's episode. So the first micro habit that I really, really want to try and commit to, that I've already started to commit to, but it's a lot harder to do, which is surprising because I used to be so good at this, but I've sort of like fallen off, and which is why systems matter, right? Which is, the habit is just not touching my phone first thing in the morning. A few years ago, I was very good at just leaving my phone in a different room. And the first thing in the morning that I would do is just ground myself spiritually. I'd pray, I'd read a devotional, not like a religious devotional or anything like that, but just like the daily stoic is like a little passage that you can read every day. So something like that. So I would read that, and it was a great way to get my day started and to just sort of set the tone and intention for my day, just taking those 5-10 minutes every day to do that. For this year though, the idea is to not go on my phone first thing in the morning. So that is going to manifest as me leaving my phone in a different room before I go to bed the night before, and actually getting up to pick up my phone and turn off my alarm or whatever when it goes off in the morning. But instead of reaching for my phone first thing in the morning, I really want to get back into a sort of grounding spiritual habit where I am, connecting to my body, connecting to myself, repeating certain affirmations, and setting the tone and intention for the kind of day I want to have. So for me, it's taking like 5 deep breaths with my eyes closed. And I feel like that's just like a way to like wake you up and get you sort of ready for the day ahead. And another thing that I really want to incorporate into my morning is drinking water, which is like so shameful to say. But I struggle with drinking water first thing in the morning for some weird reason. And I think it's just like my throat's like not open enough, and it just is not the first thought that crosses my mind. But I really just want to like make it a habit to just do 5 sips of water. Just 5 sips of water. It's something that I can handle. And then I feel like, okay, I'm hydrated and I'm like ready to go. So that's the first habit that I want, micro habit that I've committed to for 2026. The second one is to try and do one daily maintenance task a day. And by maintenance task, it could be like, okay, I consider myself a generally clean person, but sometimes I'm not the tidiest person. My desk surfaces, for like in my office, can get very, very, very messy because I just like to spread out, when I work. And one thing I'm committing to is to clean up and tidy up my surfaces at the end of each workday, like shut my laptop down, put my notebooks away, and just like signal to myself that I'm done the workday. Because I think sometimes I fool myself by thinking, oh, I'm not going to like shut everything down right now because later on after dinner or something, I'm going to come back and do a bit more work. But more often than not, after dinner, I'm too tired to do any of that, and I never go back and do any work. So I just leave my desk a mess. So I really want to change that and just shut down when I need to shut down. And if I need to come back later after dinner because there's work that I need to do, I can always open up my laptop, open up my notebook, and do that. But just getting into the habit and mindset of you're shutting down, clean up your space before you leave, I think is so important, because there is also something about getting started the next day to a clean, tidy space, right? And sort of related to that is making sure try as hard as I can to not go to bed with a sink, full of dirty dishes. It's not my proudest moment. Sometimes I'm just like very tired at the end of the day that I'm like, I don't even want to deal with this right now. And so I leave it for future Deborah to tackle. And future Deborah is never happy when she wakes up in the morning and sees that there are dishes from last night's dinner left over. So that's something that I really want to try and incorporate. It's just to clean up after myself. And the thing is, it doesn't take that much time. It's maybe 5, 7, maximum 10 minutes. Surely I can spend 10 minutes at the most cleaning up my space and setting up future me to feel better about my space. And then the third habit that I really, really, really want to hone in on this year is like spending check-ins. And by spending check-ins, I mean just like tracking my expenses every single week. I get so avoidant with tracking my expenses. I have come to the realization, especially when I feel like I've spent a lot of money. So I'm just afraid to check my credit card statement or my bank accounts to see how much money that I have spent. And I don't think that's good. I don't think it's helping anybody for me to be running away from my money or running away from looking at my statement. I'm really just trying to remove myself from the emotional aspect of it and just treat it as a fact recording mission. And by fact recording, I'm just saying I am putting down in my spreadsheet how much went to what this week, right? It doesn't have to be an emotionally charged activity, and that's really what I'm trying to. It's a lot more difficult to do, I find, than it is to say it. But I think I just really need to build the skill of just distancing myself from the emotional aspects, the emotional charge that I tend to feel around money. And I think a weekly routine tracking my expenses, like every Sunday, for instance, I think is such a great, is a good idea, is a good thing to do. But I also really want to make it a habit to maybe like incorporate it as like an evening routine, on a day that I know that, yeah, I've spent some money tonight or today. It's one of the things I do before I go to bed, just to quickly put into my tracker what I spent money on that day. And I think by doing that, it makes the check-in at the end of the week feel a lot less like this ginormous thing that I need to do, because throughout the week I've just been, small, little by little, tracking my expenses. And then another habit that I really, really want to hone in on is to consume less and create more. And so I want to really aim to reduce the amount of passive consumption I do of other people's content. and reduce the amount of consumption I do in terms of material things, not just buying stuff. But really, the idea is to tap more into my own creativity, to see myself as the muse, as the inspiration. I think it's okay to have certain people that you look up to, whose content you like and enjoy. But I do feel like it's important to also be able to go within yourself and be the inspiration that you seek. And so, one of the things that I really, really want to is, write a paragraph, just a paragraph, record a voice note sharing my random thoughts, and to come at this without the expectation of perfection. It's really muscle building, it's really habit creating, it's a habit creation. It's just practicing and practicing and practicing, being my own inspiration and being my own muse, and creating my own stuff rather than always just taking in other people's creations, which there is benefit again to enjoying what other people create, but I feel like inherently we are all creative, and there's the chance for us to tap into that and make something that we can share with others rather than just always take in from others. Another habit that is really a micro habit that's really top of mind is just moving my body every single day, whether that looks like running, whether that looks like strength training, or even just like stretching. I've had this intention of stretching, for a few minutes every single day, but I do it for like a little bit and then I fall off of it. Stretching is hella boring, but I really want to incorporate that as, a form of caring for my body. But really just overall, I want movement to be like a lifestyle thing. I don't want movement to feel like something I need to do. So I'm really still trying to figure out a way that movement can be something that's just like second nature for me, where I don't have to bargain with or force myself to move. And I feel like right now I've gotten to the point, because I've been going to the gym for so many years now, where if I don't go to the gym, if I have to take a week or two off of the gym, or if I'm a little bit inconsistent with the gym, I feel weird. I want to get to that point in terms of other kinds of movement, in terms of like not being a couch potato on the weekend and actually going out and doing things. Maybe it's like taking long walks. Maybe it's stretching. Maybe it's walking on a walking pad. I'm really playing with the idea of getting a walking pad, and this is something that I've been thinking about for a very long time. But again, just finding ways to support myself so that I reframe how I approach movement. It's just this attempt to really redefine movement as a means of caring for myself, caring for my body, and not as punishment and not as obligation either. And then another habit that I want to really refine and get better with is a nightly close ritual. And for me, that's going to look like journaling every single day. So like for the last 2 years, I've challenged myself to try and journal every single day, to have 365 journal entries, and I've come pretty close. But life sometimes happens and you miss a day, you forget a day, you skip a day. But this year though, I really, really want to challenge myself. And it's not that I don't force myself to do like lengthy journal entries. I think the other day I literally like wrote a sentence because I was like, I'm exhausted. I can't even hold this pen. So I'm just going to write a sentence, but at least I know that I recorded maybe not how my day went, but what I was feeling in the moment. And to me, that counts as a win. And to me, that counts as a ritual. It's gotten to the point now where I feel like I've been journaling every night for so long that it feels wrong if I don't do it. But again, sometimes I can override that feeling and just skip it, or, life happens and I completely forget to do it. But really, I want to make it like a consistent habit, like every single night. Or if I know that I'm going to have a night where I forget, do it before I forget, earlier in the day. It doesn't have to be in the night, but I think it's a lot better of a routine for me when it's at night, because it just works as a recap of my day where I express how my day went or how I'm feeling in the moment, what went well, what maybe didn't go well, what I'm reflecting on, etc. etc. So that's definitely something that I really am trying to hone in on and do better with. And just fingers crossed that by the end of 2026, I would have hit the goal of 365 journal entries. And, being able to just go back and reflect on all those entries too, I feel like is, a flex. And finally, a micro habit is just practicing micro honesty. And by that, I mean, asking myself, do I really want this? Why am I saying yes? Am I saying yes out of fear or because it's aligned to my goals? It's aligned to my objectives. It feels right to do. Am I buying this thing because it's something that I really need, or have I been influenced to buy this thing? Why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? And this is more of, an act of engaging in tiny moments of honesty so that I can build a life for myself that feels less resentful and more intentional, because again, I'm living in alignment with who I want to be, what my goals are, and the vision I have for myself and for my life and for my future. And I think that can only happen by being truthful and honest with myself, as much as possible in as many decisions as I can. So those are the micro habits that I'm really trying to commit to and incorporate in my life in the year 2026. 2026, I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm not trying to have a 2026 that feels scattered and reactive. I'm trying to have less of that. I'm trying to feel more at home with myself, more authentic in my expressions, and more aligned to the person that I want to be. And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking, these sound kind of small, like how far is this going to get you? I think that's a good point. And that's the point. These are supposed to be small. These are supposed to be manageable. These are supposed to be doable. And these are not supposed to overwhelm. Like I said, that's the point. Transformation doesn't really announce itself. It's the result of small cumulative actions taken over time. And I think that's all that matters. But yeah, that's everything that I have to share for today's episode, y'all. I am gonna have so much fun trying to figure out how to edit this, because with just audio is so much quicker for me to chop it all up and get it going. But with video, maybe not. Who knows? But I hope y'all have enjoyed listening to this podcast episode. I hope you've enjoyed watching this podcast episode. Thank you all so much for being here. I really truly appreciate you. And if you wanted to connect me on my other platforms, I'll have all of that information listed in the show notes. But until then, thank you all so much for being here. I can't wait to talk to you next time in another episode. But until then, take care and have a wonderful week. Bye.